Hello there, I'm Robert McKay. If you've been watching this channel for more than a couple of 3 videos, I'm sure you know that, but you may be new. This may be the first video on this channel you've ever seen. So, I'm Robert McKay, and this is the, if I remember right, the 3rd video in rebuilding my Whisky Basics series, which I don't know how I accidentally deleted every single one of the 36 videos in one swell swoop. And it's frustrating. I wanted to re-record some of them because they were pretty bad. You think this is thoroughly amateur? You should have seen them. But I'd never planned to redo everything. And even if I did, I was going to make the new video and then replace it, not have to do everything all at once. Howsoever, here we are. And the format for the Whisky Basics series, I never planned it this way originally, it just happened, and I'm sticking with it since that's what I have, is question and answer. The question on this video is, what is bourbon? I have here a bottle of the Bardstown Bourbon Company's Origin Series Kentucky Straight Wheated Bourbon Whiskey. And they're using the Irish spelling of whiskey. Now, it's wheated bourbon, and I got a shift. When I don't shift, I need to. When I do shift, it still doesn't help. Don't ask me what's going on with me. If I knew that, well, I'd know that. Don't ask me to read your mind because I can't read my own. But this is bourbon whiskey. Now, there are various aspects of it. It is Kentucky. It is straight. It is wheated bourbon whiskey. It's all 3 of those things, but right now, as I sip on a glass of this stuff, the question is, what is bourbon in general? Well, whiskey, as you know, if you've seen the first video, is in its most basic definition a distilled alcoholic beverage made from grain. Then you have various kinds of whiskey using various grains. Bourbon, by American law, must be at least 51% corn. The other 49% can be whatever. Now, the Bardstown Bourbon Company, unlike a lot of distilleries, to their credit, gives you the mash bill. And it's a whatever color that is, tan beige label with small gold print, so it's hard to read, at least for me. 6 years, here we go. It's 53% corn, so it's a barely legal bourbon. 39% wheat, and 8% malted, sprouted barley. So it is a very high wheat bourbon, but it has the 53% corn. That, of course, is 2% more than the bare minimum. As long as it's that minimum of 51% or more, it passes the first rule of bourbon. But that's not all. You have to make it in the United States. There is not, and never has been, any rule that says you have to make bourbon in Kentucky. Especially there is not and never has been any rule that says you have to make it in Bourbon County, which in any event is much smaller today than it was originally. There are parts of surrounding counties that used to be Bourbon County. But as is the custom, a county generally starts large, and as the population grows, other counties come out of that original county's territory. Kentucky used to be a county of Virginia. So bourbon you have to make in the United States. Now these rules only go back to 1964. In 1963, you could make whiskey in Mexico, in Canada, in Japan, in Peru, in the United Kingdom, in Germany, and legally call it bourbon. But when the law went into effect, suddenly those other countries could not call their whiskey bourbon, not anyway, and sell it in the United States. You know, if you have a distillery in Scotland and you want to distill something and call it bourbon, you can, as long as you're not trying to import it to the United States, because then our laws won't allow it to sell here. But in Scotland, there's nothing to prevent it. So, made in the United States, at least 51% corn, then it has to age in new charred oak barrels. Those three characteristics. The law says container. For various reasons, the container is always a barrel. But really, there are just three things that we need to focus. New, never before used, period, end of discussion. If you've used it for any other purpose, if you put whiskey in it and dumped it 2 seconds later, it's a used barrel. You cannot put bourbon, or you can put whiskey in, but what comes out cannot be bourbon. Charred. It has to be charred. And charring is where some cooperages do it with the barrel standing upright. Some do it with the barrel laying on its side. But either way, flame shoots through the barrel. It burns the inside of the barrel, and how long that flame is in contact with the barrel determines the degree of char. They have 4 basic levels. Most distilleries use 3 or 4. I've heard of a level 5 char, but if anybody uses that, it's not too many. But it chars the inside of the barrel. It essentially turns a layer, and depending on the char, it's going to be more or less thick. But it turns that layer into charcoal, and under that charcoal layer, the temperature affects the chemicals in the wood so that they can more easily get into the whiskey, and also changing them so that they add not just a woody flavor, but various sweet flavors to the whiskey. And then the third thing is this container, barrel, must be oak. Now the law does not specify what kind of oak. Most, if not all, bourbon barrels are American white oak, but you can use any kind of oak you want. Now some kinds of oak are common, some kinds are rare. You use one of those other kinds, or a kind of oak you have to import, that's a more expensive barrel. It's going to drive the cost of the whiskey up. But different kinds of oak impart different flavors. I've never had a whiskey aged in a Mizunara barrel, and I'm probably mispronouncing it because I don't speak Japanese. Although I do know that the name of the capital is not Tokyo. It's Tokyo. 2 syllables. Tokyo. Anyway, language lesson over. Unless we want to go to North Korea, where the capital is not Pyongyang, it's Pyongyang. Yang. 2 syllables, not 3. But anyway, I was talking about oak. Don't ask me how. Oh, Japanese oak. Mizunara is a Japanese oak, which some people at least seem to be able to detect. Even if they don't know what they're drinking, they can detect that particular variety of oak. I've never had anything aged in it. There's a kind of wood from Brazil. Whether it's an oak, I'm not certain. I didn't expect to bring it up, so I didn't look it up. But it's called Ambarana, which might be near the pronunciation because they speak Portuguese in Brazil, which is related to Spanish, of which I speak some. Maybe I didn't get it close. But that imparts a distinctive flavor. I've heard of people, obviously more expert than I am, who can detect whether it's French oak or Hungarian oak. But it has to be some kind of oak, so new, charred oak barrel. So you have to have 51% corn at least, made in the United States, aged in a barrel that's new, charred, and oak. You do that, you have bourbon. How long does the whiskey have to stay in the barrel? Not long. You can literally fill a barrel, turn it over and dump it, and under the law, those few seconds it spent in the barrel, assuming you followed all the other rules, those few seconds in the barrel make it bourbon. It goes from still to bottle, it's not bourbon. Still to 3 seconds in the barrel to bottle, it's bourbon. Does it make sense? No. But then how much law in the United States makes sense anymore? And of course, those who made the law didn't anticipate anybody doing that. And as far as I know, nobody ever has. It would be a novelty at best. Although if I were running a distillery, I might take a barrel every now and then and do that and sell it on a novelty basis. Just call it 10-second bourbon or something like that. And legally, it would be bourbon. You could put bourbon on the label and it would be legal. People at the Tax and Trade Bureau of the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, which as a side note is unconstitutional, but who cares about the Constitution in this country anymore? Certainly not the characters in D.C. The Constitution became a dead letter to Washington City in 1861. That's when the federal government decided it could do whatever it pleased and not pay no mind to the Constitution, and it's been that way ever since. With variations, with fluctuations, I understand that. But I'm talking about the general trend. But anyway, how did I get onto the Constitution? I honestly don't know. Caramel and butterscotch. Oh man, this stuff's good. It's my new favorite wheated bourbon, and on another time, I can't remember what I have on the list, but I might get into what a wheated bourbon is. But we're coming up on 15 minutes, and if I keep going, I'm going to repeat myself, which y'all don't probably want. Some of y'all may be saying, why didn't that boy shut up 2 seconds after he started? Well, if you don't like what I'm doing here, if you don't like me, if you don't like my style, that's fine. You don't have to watch the video. You can quit. Ain't nobody holding a gun to your head and twisting your arm and forcing you to watch now, is there? But if you like what I'm doing with this channel, bringing together in one place all sorts of information useful to beginners in whiskey. And if you like the way I'm doing it, and if you can tolerate me, then at least consider subscribing to the channel. That way you get the notification or get the notification when a new video goes up. You can always like the video, you can share it. I'm not on Facebook. I am on Twitter, but I almost never post there. And that's all I'm on. Oh, and MeWe. Why was I saying what I was saying? I'm not on Facebook. Won't ever be again. I left that place and no regrets. I almost never post on Twitter, but I'm on MeWe every day. You can look up MeWe. It's a free speech alternative to Facebook. You don't go to jail just because somebody doesn't like what you say. People don't have to listen to you. They can block you. They can ignore you. But you get to say whatever you want to say, and who knows, maybe somebody will listen. But you can share these videos in all sorts of places where I ain't. Facebook, MeWe, Gab. I do have a Gab account. I haven't been there in months. It's so kludgy, I just got tired of it. It doesn't really provide anything better than MeWe. And yeah, subscribe, like, share. Those are the things I'm asking you to do. We're 17 minutes, it just flipped over, so I'm done. Yeehaw.